the dungeon master's wrath with a dash of sick. I dash like Sonic Mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist the tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us, the master race. Take him with a master hand, it's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make an eyesore, but I wonder how 4 guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. You're listening to episode number 172. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I'm your host for this lovely evening. I'm joined by a great group of guys. You all know Dom, DeClaude, and Chira. Everybody can say
howdy.
Hi once.
Hi.
So,
Chira, what are you chewing on?
Do we want to jump into this right away?
He set you up. It was a
set you up
segue.
perfectly with that.
Like,
Come on.
I thought we wanted to talk about other stuff.
What are you chewing on?
I am
He
chewing
put that on a T.
All right, first off, let's talk about something that's
we had a plan for this.
All right.
We had a plan.
So, more importantly than the granola we're chewing on tonight is the fact that we have producers for the podcast now. And I'm excited. I'm super excited to get this off my plate and actually have people that know what they're doing with audio to take care of it. So, everybody should welcome Lancifer and Brock Reese. Lancifer is taking care of the Trinity Force proper. He's going to put together the show every single week for us, both shows, and Brock Reese is going to put together the LCS rundown. Now, I am talking to somebody who's going to be putting together the Oz LOL podcast for us, which will take one off of Lee's plate. So that will be, that's great. I'm super excited to have these guys on board and, part of the Trinity Force family. And I don't know what else to say except for thank you guys so much for stepping up to the plate and wanting to help us out.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the curtain, and these guys are helping with that, so...
Right. So the consistency, a lot of you have praised us for how good the podcast sounds. Hopefully it sounds better over the next few weeks as these guys take it into their hands and help us to fine-tune our microphones and really work with the audio, because I only knew so much, and I've done 170 episodes or so by myself, and these guys have stepped up to the plate and started doing it. So, Lancifer and Brock, thank you very much for joining the family. Now, the Trinity Force podcast actually has a special, what are we going to call it, sponsor this week?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
That'd be it.
Yeah. So we have a
special.
So what's is really awesome. We have a lot of dedicated fans out there, and some of you guys have your own businesses, and some of you guys work for businesses that are trying to get their name out there. Well, Sandro contacted us, and he works for Gatherer's Gourmet Granola. And he sent us a whole bunch of granola right here, you guys. If you're watching it at youtube.com/TForce podcast, you guys can see. And we have been destroying this granola. Like, you need to look right now. I'm sorry if you're not watching live, but I've got all this granola sitting over here, all these different flavors, and they are fucking fantastic. Like,
Good stuff.
it is.
Oh, they're
it's
delicious. And all the ones that have chocolate in them should be illegal because they're so freaking good. I'm running out of my favorite two are these, like the Badger's Best and this Turtle Tracks one. There's like some dried cranberries and pecans and dark chocolate, and every time you get like a little dark chocolate nugget, it's like a little surprise, and it's just I love it. I was at work.
Yeah,
I was at work eating it, and somebody's like, "Are you just eating straight granola?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's delicious. Why would I not eat straight granola? It seems like a great idea."
See, I like the honey one and the apple one most so far.
There you go.
And
That's
it's
the apple
great.
one.
Yeah. And
That's
it's great
the
because it's great for me because when I get snacky, like at the office or right when I get home from work is when I'm snackiest. And these have been filling the void perfectly. It's like it's the thing I was missing in my life.
They kind of fit league champions. You got Fox's Fancy, that's Ari's. You like the Badger's Best, there's Timo. And then the Turtle Tracks, that's, I guess, Udyr when he's not being
all
aggressive.
the Udyrs. You have like you have the Fox and the Badger. I don't know. You can just have the different things in it. Sorry for the background. But I just want to give you guys a little bit more information about Gatherer's Granola. So you're like, why should we go out and buy Gatherer's Granola? Because these guys...
Because it's delicious.
Well, one, it's delicious. So go check out bit.ly/TForce Granola. You can go buy it there. They also serve it to 11 states in the northeastern region, such as like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, whatever. You can go over there and buy it. But if you buy it online using all caps TForce GG, you get 10% off on Amazon when they ship it to you. I would go out there if I were you guys and go buy the box. There's a $10.99 one out there. It costs you about $15 shipped after that code. It's got 3 different flavors in it. Buy it and try it out and let us know how it is. Like, we want pictures or we want testimonials, because we want to read them back to you guys and let you know that people do really like this. Like, we're not just shilling because we have the stuff. It's actually delicious. But
It's so good.
It's wonderful.
Add
You
it
don't
to
even
your
know.
yogurt if you want something extra for a little crunch, I like to throw in Greek
Don't
yogurt.
do what I did. Don't mix a bunch of them together. That's not advised.
That's a lot of
granola
flavors, my friend.
I don't recommend it.
Sandro sent us this whole letter and talking about the granola and everything. You can see it right here. But the big thing about this was he wants to make the tastiest granola available, but apparently that is not mixing them all together, which makes them very tasty. They are tasty separately.
Yeah, there's a method to the different flavor madness.
Right. So guys, that's please go check out Gatherer's Gourmet Granola. Sandro's a great person. He graciously provided us with all of this granola to try out. You can go to bit.ly, so that's bit.ly/T-Force Granola. That'll take you to the Amazon link, and you can buy them there with code all caps TForceGG. Give you 10% off. I recommend you buy the 3-pack for $10 and get them shipped to your door. You can also go out to any of your local Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, whatever it may be, and find it there. So that is it for Gatherer's Granola this week. Guys, we will talk about the Battle Arena at the end of the podcast. So if you're looking for more information about that, wait till the very end when we are finished talking, because there's a lot to talk about this week in League of Legends.
Oh, yeah.
We were going to touch back on Nidalee, right?
We're gonna talk about Nidalee. We're gonna talk about the PBE changes that we've seen this week, sans the Nidalee changes since they just came out today, and we are gonna talk. That includes Maokai, Nautilus buffs, basically jungler buffs, and then we're gonna swing back around and talk about like Essence Reaver, BT, iEdge, and how AD carries work. So
you got lots to say this week, big guy.
I know.
A lot of analysis.
Yeah, you. That's a lot to talk about.
Why is it all on me?
You're the host, reason. Man. You're the host. Strong back, carry show.
At least strong back, carry show. All right, let's talk Nidalee. Who got to play Nidalee? I know Sean did.
I played her out of the jungle every time I played her. You better have your teammates being really strong laters if you're going to do that, because if your team gets behind, you're probably just going to become a spear chucking machine.
Yeah, that was the experience playing against support Nidalee. I don't want to play her, but they were out. The support Nidalee players were out in droves right after the rework, and I was like, you guys realize it's not different. It's actually worse than it was before. Well, play her mid or top like you're supposed to.
I will say I've seen every time I've seen a Nidalee in top lane right now, they seem to crush whoever they're up against in lane, which I think is kind of what they're aiming some of the nerfs towards.
When I look at these Nidalee rework or the changes, they basically took a lot of her power from pieces of her kits and divided it in between all of her stats that she has available, or all of her abilities that she has available. And they put a lot of her power into her passive with the On the Hunt passive. So if you land it's a spear or a W, right?
Your bushwhack.
Right. If you land, if you walk over the bushwhack or you land a spear, you then empower your other abilities. Pounce makes you jump further toward them, and Q gains extra damage, if I remember correctly. I don't actually have it in front of me, unfortunately. But
I've got all the PBE changes, not the actual live data. And that's what we need. What are you doing, Dom? You're terrible.
Right. But I did play her once. I actually played her in a live game, but I've looked at a lot of it, and I've seen a lot of them played. It seems like a lot of people are taking her and making her a bruiser now. Not so much with the spear chucking machine anymore, because they did offload a lot of that power into her passive from her Q. And right now in the top lane, when I'm looking at building her, I would probably do like Blade of the Ruin King into a tanky build. Even Iceborne Gauntlet is fantastic on her to slow somebody down.
I was about to say, we saw that a few times. Like there was a Vayne top lane that Nidalee just crushed, built a Blade of the Rune King, and then went around.
So you just like
being
her with
a harass bot.
You like her with an AD build, even though takedown's the only ability that scales off AD, and everything scales off AP if it's scaling.
Right. Because of the extra, it works well because she gets to. It's with the passive and how much damage you can do when you jump in and get out, and it makes yourself tanky by having that extra lifesteal and having that extra raw ability damage.
I'm gonna hate myself for saying. Do you think we're gonna see the really old hotshot GG Ginsu's Rage Blade into like otherwise Bruiser Nidalee build?
Who knows?
Like back when Hotshot was the Nidalee player, that's how he did it, and he was split pushing. Like Hotshot has always played this game.
Yeah,
I could see Sheen. I could see Sheen into a Sheen item, whether it's IBG or T-Force, and then the rest tanky items, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, it really comes down to that a Q does percentage of life damage, and so does Bushwhack as well if you run over that. And Blade of the Ruin King is doing percentage of life damage, so you're jumping it auto, Q, auto, and you've chunked them for 15-20% of the life.
And here's the thing, too. She has bonus damage just baked into her kit if she's utilizing her passive properly anyway, so that kind of allows her to build tankier and still do some damage as well. And it even kind of incentivizes you to be tankier so you can land an ability and then run in, hit somebody, and then get out.
Yeah, you have to manage her cooldowns now. You have to really manage them because you should be running at somebody and know how much longer you have left on your pounce and your tiger form, or your Q or whatever it is, so you can jump right back into it and have that extra pounce range after you've landed a spear.
Oh, dear God, she is doing terrible in a really small sample. But do you think it's because everybody is playing her the way they always used to play Nidalee and have not adjusted to...
It's the Cassidon syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, she's the...
We'll give it some time just to let it even out.
She's a hair above Urgot right now as far as winning at this game goes.
I would say it's because everybody in the brother is playing right now.
And unlike Urgot, she shows up in almost 20% of all games.
And Shrieker Booty is telling us right now that her Q also applies on hit effects, something we didn't mention before.
That is a good note to mention.
And that'll proc Blade of the Ruin King, that'll proc Iceborne Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Wait, takedown or javelin toss?
Takedown.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah, that'd be broke as fuck.
That would be very broken if it was.
with that long of a range.
You have spear, Iceborne Gauntlet, and gauges. If that were the case, that'd be ridiculous.
So I think we need more people to try to play her out of the top lane as a bruiser, build Blade of the Ruin King, build an Iceborne Gauntlet. That made you tanky at that point. You're getting the slow. You're able to chase somebody down with takedown and you're passive on the hunt. And I should have said pounce it on the hunt, not takedown. But she does pretty well in lane. She's fairly safe because I think, what is her range? 550, I think, right now?
520, 525.
Okay, I thought 575 was really long, so that's why. Okay, yeah, but 525, that's Vayne range, right?
It's a little bit shorter than Vayne. I think Vayne's 550.
Okay.
They kind of homogenized the marksman range after a while there. It's only like there are a few outliers. Caitlyn, obviously, Ashe. Trist gets there.
But in lane, if all you're spending your mana on is healing yourself while you're maxing your Q, you can stay in lane and have that extra attack speed and push back very easily.
Oh yeah,
and now that you have your Cougar form, you can be more aggressive than you could previously.
Well, I mean, and you can dip in and out of combat way earlier than you could otherwise. Like Nidalee's always been a safe laner. Now that she has Cougar form at level 1. You can take pounce early and have that increased mobility in case somebody tries to gank you. So her top, at least, laning phase got way quicker. Mid, it's about the same just because of how short the lane is. But for the top lane, that definitely helps out a lot.
You can't forget to mention that her W is now pointed toward her cursor. When she jumps, you don't have to be pointed toward the way you want to jump anymore. So that allows you to go in and gives you that extra half a second, whatever it may be. You don't have to turn around and jump away.
Right. Well, she's played differently now, I think, in a team fight scenario later in the game, where before you just wait for that one lucky javelin toss while you're trying to poke away and then everybody dogpiles. Now she has to go in with your team. She kind of has to pick and choose her battles instead of, okay, this is a guaranteed, we just saw him get chunked, everybody go in. So that mentality is going to change a little bit.
I like her now. I like these stance dancing characters, the fact that they're not just standing out in the back and using one ability.
Me too.
I mean,
if we're saying player top lane, who would you play into her? Do you think?
Renekton can always play into anybody. So
of course,
Renekton
can do it all.
He's the king of the top.
Right now could play into her because of Essence Reaver.
Jace could play into borderline anybody.
The problem with playing against the Nidalee is her sustain. Like you said, if you only use her mana for heal, you're never going to force her out unless you're getting on top of her face. And with those lane pushes there, she's got a good advantage.
I think a Rise would do pretty well against her. The range is pretty much the same, and you can land that QW combo to chunk her down. But again, you have to be mindful of your mana and what you're doing, so you have to play safe early as Rise. I'm trying to think of some other top lane champs to play. You could play Rumble into her, for sure, because Rumble can push the wave back faster than she can push it.
He can also counter some of her damage with the shield, too.
And I would probably play Trundle, but you would have to play a very aggressive Trundle to do it. Like, you can't just sit back passive. That's some of the things that people don't realize with a lot of these top lane champions, like Olaf as well, because we liked him a lot. If you were going to play him in Nidalee, you'd be very aggressive.
You have to get them scared early so they are afraid to just harass
Put
you.
them in their place, make them respect you.
Yup.
Yes, and that's a lot of people are like, well, how do I play Jax into it? Well, Jax can't really go aggressive early, but you will have to try if you're going to play it into a Nidalee top lane.
Jax is getting hit hard.
Yep. We'll talk about that in a moment. I wouldn't say he's getting hit hard. I'd just say he's neutral.
I wouldn't say it's that bad.
Needs it.
To be perfectly, no, he definitely needs it. The first thought when I saw the Jax changes were, I don't think that's enough.
Yeah,
and I love Jax.
It's a start.
It always
it's
seems that way. When you see base stat tweaks for a nerf, it's like, yeah. But then all of a sudden you play it, you're like, oh, shit.
Let's talk about
since we're there.
Yeah.
Jax right now on the PBE has his HP per level reduced to 85 from 98, which is a giant nerf.
Giant chunk.
Armor per level reduced to 3
Lucky
from
13.
3.5, and base HP reduced to 450 from 463.
The end result is by level 18, he loses something like 250 health.
Well, and that's fine.
A lot of health.
It is a lot of health, but he's also in the top 3 largest base health pool champions in the game.
Sure, yeah.
So for not having to build any defensive stats at all, he has some of the highest base HP, which is this is a change that people have been kind of begging for on Reddit and the League forums and a bunch of other stuff. They've been asking him. A lot of people were like, oh, they need to nerf his ult because he's too powerful once he hits 6. And it's like, look, they're not going to nerf his ult because his ult's like the iconic ability for that character, and it's been that way forever. And the fact that people don't respect it and die at level 6 is part of the fun of that champion. But I don't think he should be as tanky as he is for the amount of damage he puts out later in the game. The issue that Riot sees is the fact that you build 2 damage items, you get a Randuin's, and you're borderline unkillable if the other team isn't just snowballed out of control. You are a monster in team fights. You may as well be a tank that does more damage than the rest of your team.
It's not the end game that this really matters for.
Right.
It's the mid game, and when he would normally be hitting that unkillable power spike, now he still might be kind of killable. Endgame Jax is like still scary as shit, and you don't want it. You don't want the game to go on that long. But now there should be points beforehand where he is easier to manage.
Yeah, it's basically easier to manage. This doesn't stop him from split pushing. This doesn't stop him necessarily from being a bully in lane when he hits 6. It's that spike in between 3 and 5 that he gets. He gets like a weird small spike in between there because you get 2 points in W by that time, and you can go aggressive on somebody that if they aren't pushing you back and, you know, it's asserting their dominance like we spoke before. And in mid-game, there has been a number of times playing Jax that I've seen in pro games and in, you know, normal solo queue play, where Jax will run out of a fight with an extra 200 life left, you know, with 200 life left. And this could bring him down to having 10 life left, and maybe you want to chase him down now at this point.
Right.
Because he is going to drop a significant amount of HP by the mid-game. It's like, what, 100 and... It's about 100 life by mid-game, right?
It should be, yeah.
100, 125, somewhere in there.
Right.
The other piece of this we also have to keep in mind is the fact that there was a teleport change, so that's going to hit him too, since he probably benefited the most out of the teleport change out of every champion. Right. So now with the bonus 40 seconds on teleport, that's going to take away from some of his early game power.
I have noticed that teleport change has been a big hit.
Oh yeah,
to my top lane champions, because there's been a bunch of times where I should have it up by the time that second dragon spawns, and it's not available. It's got 40 or 50 seconds left on it, and I can't make it down there.
In solo queue, I've been seeing people teleport to minions now, not bothering with the turret. I keep telling them, look, it's still lower if you go to the damn turret.
Right.
And they teleport to a minion right next to the turret. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
That. Yeah. Or the wave is it's in the middle of the wave, and people are teleporting to the wave rather than
I hate
teleporting
that.
to the turret.
The only time you do that is when you're split pushing, the enemy turret is on that minion, you prevent it from dying, get a few hits in there so you can push that turret down. But other than that,
teleport to a turret.
Yeah, do a turret or a ward if you're going back to Dragon or to help your team.
Yeah, that change has a much larger effect, like we spoke last week on pro play. Than it does, and even
just the higher levels.
Yeah. I do believe the LCS rundown might actually touch on it and how it's changing when they start playing on patch 410, which should be within a week, 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks because they just played on Braum, and they play 3 weeks in between patches, right?
This was
They
their
played
second
Braum
week. This was their
start.
second
They
week on
played
Braum.
3 weeks, and
Yeah,
then it's a patch.
this is the second week of Braum.
I thought it was 2 weeks, but okay.
It might be.
I don't know. I honestly don't.
I thought it was 3, but it could be they could be on 410 next week, and that could be at the changes. But
At the start of this week's LCS, I got a mention in the preview because I predicted the Braum being the next champion, so it was the week before that.
Because that was hard to predict.
Exactly. It was. Everyone was afraid he'd be banned so much, but, you know, I knew he'd slip through.
Right. I was expecting a pun
Because
there.
I'm smart.
Well, Braum is actually seeing another... Well, Braum is... He never mind. His changes were reverted. So
Yeah. He's just being messed with on the PvE. Nothing...
Right, nothing to talk about.
Yep.
So, Kale is an interesting change here. She's been a problem for a while now. Again, she's been a problem when it comes to the mid and late game, like not so much early.
She's been a problem for a year and a half.
Right.
Yep.
Her attack speed per level has been reduced to 2.2 from 2.5, which I think is a warranted change. And Righteous Fury, which is her E, has had both AP ratios, hit and splash, reduced to 0.2 from 0.4. That's a big change.
That is huge. I'm okay with it though.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, yeah.
Right now, her build is
She'll
build
still kick
Stinger,
ass.
build Boots, build some kind of offensive AP item into Hurricane.
Maybe this will
Get
pull
a
her off the
Lich
ban
Bane
list a little bit.
eventually.
Yeah, right.
So all your Kale players will get your chance again, so...
She's another one of those characters that they hit that critical mass point and she just becomes a huge nightmare to deal with because she can if she gets in a bad spot and has to ult herself, she just killed 2 people in the span of 2.5 seconds.
She's so much more of a no-brainer champion compared to some of these other critical mass. Like Vayne hits critical mass. Vayne is still hard to play. Right. Kale is a no-brainer champion.
Well, see, and I think I need to ask. Wish Me Luck says, why not smacking Runons? She's the only one that uses it. Because Runons isn't the problem. She gets Runon. Runons is just icing on the cake that is Kale murdering people.
Because if you hit Runons, she'll just turn around and build some other attack speed oriented Wit's End.
Yeah.
Or, something else along those lines. You would have to, if you're approaching it from that angle, you would have to basically nerf all attack speed items because of Kale, and that's a bad way to go about balancing a game.
So let's just nerf her attack speed.
Exactly. Take her attack speed down a tad. She already has a fairly low attack speed early until she gets that first Stinger item. So taking it down that extra point, I think it puts her more in line and gives her that timer a little longer than the timer. I'm not really a big fan of critical mass champions like Jax and Kale. Like, I like playing them because they're fun to play. Don't get me wrong, but I don't like that they exist in the game, that there's a point where it's impossible to stop them no matter what items you have.
The problem with someone like
counterplay.
Kale, there is counterplay, and you are supposed to shut him down early. The problem is that once Kale hits 6, you are not going to kill her. You are not going to kill her in lane. Because she gets a mulligan. Built-in escape. She gets a mulligan, and it's not like that's on a long cooldown. That's a short fucking cooldown ability.
At max rank, it's like 70 seconds.
But the great the weakness,
it's less than that with CDR.
Keep in mind, counterplay for Kale, she could be stunned while she's intervened. So if she does intervention herself and think, I'm just going to murder everybody, boom. Hit her with your CC then. Yeah. Hit her with that whatever you got. And it'll wear off pretty much right after the stun wears off because it does not last long, and then you can rip her down. So you just got to be smart.
The problem is the
problem there is then you don't have CC to deal with her when intervention is down.
Exactly. She does bring that, and that's one reason she's such a pain in the ass to deal with, is because you have to deal with her, and then her teammates will run amok. So, but if you concentrate on dealing with her, you can take her down. It's not that and with these hits on her AP, she's not going to insta-murder 3 of you at the same time if you're standing in a cluster. I don't think. Having the AP ratio is pretty big deal.
I got to go quick look at it. Because that has
0.2 to 0.4.
That has an AD ratio as well.
It does have an AD component.
And so does Reckoning. And so
the way
realistically, you could just start building her AD.
Right. That's what. Will this change her build paths a little bit? Hurricane is still good, obviously.
I can't say. I'm not a really big Kale player.
So.
I just noticed. My problem that I see with Kale is that free mulligan, even if you're wasting your CC on her while she's stunned to stop her from doing anything. Like Dom said, you don't have it up to deal with anybody else, and you have to switch off of her, or you have to switch off of anybody who is ulted. It's usually not her being ulted.
I was about to say it doesn't have
throw
to be
Vayne on
her.
a team and
Yeah, seriously,
Gotta
throw
deal with that.
another hyper carry on there. Who cares if they get caught? Intervene and let them run away, and then and re-engage the fight.
Oh yeah, yep. So she's still going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think. I don't think this really hits her too hard.
I mean, her reckoning actually scales better with AD than it does with AP. It's bonus AD, but still. And then
Right.
Righteous Fury will still have the 0.4 AD ratio as opposed to the 0.2 AP ratio of, well,
so
AP.
we can easily see her switching over to a
Yeah,
Stinger
she
and
could
to
just-
Ruin King or something.
And then we'll see her in top lane again or some shit like that. Or people will just
Re-
start playing
reminder.
her marksman because they want they just want Kale on the team in some capacity.
Reminder: these are PvE changes right now, and they are extremely tentative. So we're speculating if these stick.
right. Well, let's talk about Maokai. Speaking of sticking to somebody, Twisted Advance is getting a buff.
Oh man.
Arcane
Big time.
Smash and a
So
Sapling
good.
Toss and Vengeful Maelstrom are all getting buffs. And I actually text Chira on Friday night. I was laying in my bed, drunkenly laying in my bed, reading these updates. And I went, Chira top lane Maokai. And he's like, what's changed? I
No,
was
the best part
like,
is-
he gets a slow.
He says this, and I didn't look at it for like an hour and a half, and I'm like, wait.
You're thinking of Chira when you're laying in drunken bed and not me? What the hell, man? Thought we were friends.
We hadn't talked for 3 days, okay? You left me
JJ.
alone.
It's okay. Adam and I share the love for a tree.
Yeah, I'm coming up to
I
Chira's
love
place.
Maokai.
here
I
soon.
love Maokai. What are you talking about?
I said
I've never
I'm
seen
coming
you
up to
play him.
Chira's place soon.
Yeah, on July 4th.
He and I are gonna
All right,
hang
you
out.
guys are
and hug each
branching off
other.
the subject here. Let's get back to
I've
Maokai.
been trying to get him to pun this entire podcast, and he won't do it. Okay, let's talk. Arcane Smash. Mana
I
cost
can go
lowered
all day
to
on
45 at all ranks from 55. Q slow reduced to 1.5 from 2. Not that big a deal because Sapling Tossed now has a slow when it lands. Mana cost has been reduced across the board by 10. Landing damage has been lowered across the board by about 15. And, well, it gets a little lower as it, goes higher.
It starts out the same, gets reduced
Significantly,
more.
40.
Yeah.
40 at max rank. But it has a
His
slow now,
ultimate.
so they remove damage to add the slow. Explosions also now slow enemies hit by 50% for 1 second. So this is a after the fact engage type of thing. You're Wing Q, throw your sapling, and it explodes, and they're still slowed.
It's keeping people around once you've already blown your slow load.
Or if you're
And-
coming into gank and you just can't get the distance to hit him with your W.
Well, it's got to
It's a-
explode. That's the
Sapling toss.
problem
It's also
with it, too.
noteworthy. They reduced the movement speed of the saplings, but the saplings also now scale with Maokai's movement speed.
Which I think that's
that's cool.
really
That's
interesting.
huge.
Yeah,
That's huge. That's cool. They're going to be a lot better at the end of the game.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work with Boots' mobility. I wonder if they'll keep the move speed when they land, and I wonder if it doesn't change. Like if you
what
was
if
to
it gets
throw
knocked off like midway? The,
yeah, well, what
the
happens if you
saplings run
throw
slower?
it, go in combat, lose your movement speed? Do the saplings
Or, like-
keep
Does the
movement
sapling
speed?
slow down too? Yeah.
Or like your support pops Talisman of Ascension, and you
Then you have lightning
you
fast
toss
saplings.
it. What happens there?
What happens if you teleport because you're playing top line Maokai with home guard, and then you throw your sapling out, and now your sapling is lightning
All
fast
these
because of home guard?
situations. All these situations.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
that'd
that
be
great.
funny.
And sapling's like,
You know you're gonna get those crazy motherfuckers that go with the Hecarim movement speed style builds, and that's all they're just so that they can have super fast saplings.
right.
Lich Bane Maokai just for the extra move speed.
Yeah, but that was already like okay if you were going full AP.
Let's talk about Magical Maelstrom too, and then we can talk
Well,
about his
yeah,
whole
yeah,
kit. Magical Maelstrom now is attached to Maokai, and instead of being cast in an area, it now is an area effect around him, and it moves with him.
I really like this mainly because it keeps him from it kind of pigeonholes you into building tanky if you want to get the full use out of his kit, which you should be doing anyway, but it incentivizes you to get in the fight and to stay around, especially if your teammates are staying around. That way you can soak more damage on their behalf.
Well, you can
And-
follow your AD carry around now, and you don't have to worry about where you place it the first time that you dropped it.
Right,
So-
or like the fight moving somewhere else, and then it was a wash because you didn't.
I
hit
wish we
anybody
would
with
have
it.
talked about Twisted Advance before getting here, because I didn't like this change at first, but I think I was just sort of clinging to the old way you used it. But then the Twisted Advance changes sort of made me reconsider my stance on it because, and we'll touch on him, but I think he's going to be a really mobile champ in a fight now. He's going to be able to just bounce from target to target as he feels. And the Twisted Advance changes, the mana cost is reduced to a flat 75. And then the cooldown now starts at 12 and goes down to 8 instead of being 13 seconds at all ranks, which is a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The range has been reduced, and Riot actually has a really good reason for that. And then Twisted Advance also now deals scaling % of max health damage to the target. It caps at 300 against minions and monsters. And it also that has a decent AP ratio on it.
So
Chi-Chi's top lane 80 Maokai now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking at like a CDR Maokai too. He'll have a 6-second Twisted Advance. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be able to just bounce from target to target to target, and that is why I'm much more on board with the Vengeful Maelstrom change than I was when I initially read all this and kind of glossed over the CDR or the cooldown change. I don't know. I'm still probably always going to be sentimental and kind of wish that Vengeful Maelstrom was something I could place
So what was
where I
Riot's
want.
reasoning behind the 150 range reduction?
When they originally based all the changes around Vengeful Maelstrom, that was like the beginning of everything, as they made it attached to him, and it ultimately felt counterintuitive. You had this champion that was trying to dive the backlines, and the casting range on Vengeful Maelstrom was never great, so he would be basically standing at the fringe of a circle. He could dive the opponents, and then they could either back away or just kill Maokai before he could do anything about it. So they reduced the range because between all the other changes, it just seemed like he was designed to be more of a bodyguard, and he's supposed to be doing a lot of crowd control type effects. So they reduced the range on it, so you no longer were just dashing way to the very back of the enemy line. But they also changed it to % health so that you were no longer penalized for catching a really tanky target. So if you catch Vi, it's no big deal. It's not nearly as big a deal anymore as it would have been.
That's fine and all, but I feel like that really hampers him in lane.
That would be
somebody, not actually in lane, but from out of the jungle to gank.
That
somebody.
would be the case if they hadn't added that slow to sapling toss.
Sure, I get that.
Because and it's not necessarily
it's not
really
hard to catch. It's going to be hard to catch those mobile people that are in lane if you
sure,
don't have that extra range on W.
But that's always the case. But and here's the thing, you don't necessarily have to hit them. In fact, you don't want to hit them with Eves and then have them get out of range of the sapling. You can actually use that to zone them towards your teammate.
Sure.
And then you can gank in that regard because their escape route is blocked or they're blowing a summoner, and you win either way there.
What I like about this is that you can make more use of storing the magic energy for the damage once you activate it. You can keep it on you while you're running around in the fight. Make sure you store the maximum bonus, and then boom, you have an on-demand Nunu ult pretty much, and just pop it real quick, PvAOE around you.
Okay,
so,
I understand where Dom's going with the kind of nostalgically liking the way the ult used to function, where you could zone.
I've snagged so many kills because people forgot about the damage.
Well, I was about to say, I liked it just because you could place it and your team knew where to fight. You could kind of goad them into fighting a certain area. You could it was a decent zoning tool. You could scare people off dragons if they were doing it. You could do some cool stuff, but I don't know. I think this will be
better
more useful.
That was better when Maokai saw a lot of play and everybody knew what his ult did, but he's been so uncommon for so long that I think a lot of people... Yeah, and there are a lot of people who don't realize that the ult doesn't affect tower shots. People will drop it thinking that they're going to tank extra tower shots, and that doesn't matter. That you're taking the same damage.
Did anybody else see that Twisted Advance, which is a W, gets a 15% damage of the target's maximum health as magic damage?
Yeah,
we just talked about that.
I said that.
Okay, but I'm just... On 6-second cooldown, if you had CDR for it, you're doing a ton of damage without...
Yeah. That's why he's going to be bouncing around the fight, and it doesn't matter who he's picking.
I love it. Oh, I'm so excited to play Maokai again.
I kind of think he'll be pretty decent in solo queue out of the top.
Oh, yeah.
Into the right matchup now. Yeah, he lost a bit of damage, but he didn't necessarily need it. He used a lot of that damage with, like, his sapling toss is what, a 0.8 or is it still a 1.0 or did they reduce it?
It's still 1 as far as I know.
But before you would max Q, now I think you're going to max W on somebody and do percentage of HP damage into the Q.
I think you're going to put like 2 or 3 ranks.
I'm talking top lane Maokai, not...
No, but even then, I think you're going to put in 2 or 3 ranks because if you don't, people are still going to push really easily against him.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you will need that extra wave clear, but you're not going to max it right off the bat. It's going to be Q and W that you focus on, and then it's going to be W that you max first. It'll just be delayed a little bit.
Well, the old thing to do was max QWE for the most part, unless you're playing AP Maokai, and then you max EQW. But
I'm sorry, you're going to be maxing E or Q. It doesn't matter, whichever one you like more for the wave clear.
You'll definitely be maxing Q. The cooldown's shorter, and it's way easier to control where the sapling goes rather than the sapling just deciding what it wants to do.
Right.
So
all of these changes together, I like what they're doing to this, because right now junglers feel really... It's really hard to find a good jungler through bans, because I feel like a lot of them are being banned. Master Yi's being banned a lot in solo queue. Elise is getting banned, Lee Sin, if he's not being picked up. So if none of those junglers are available, what do you pick? And that's kind of what like TSM ran into a couple weeks ago. Like, what do I pick when all these junglers are banned? So now that's going to bring back in the Jarvans and the Vi. We've seen Jarvan come back. Jarvans and the Vi's and the Maokais. And it's a whole cycle with League of Legends where as soon as all those damaging champions start getting nerfed or the items they're building start getting nerfed,
the support
junglers coming back.
Which, in my opinion, are... I've had the most fun playing support junglers and doing a lot of things that you're not supposed to be able to do with support junglers on support junglers, but...
I'd rather play support junglers because it's more fun to gank a lot than it is to farm.
Oh, yeah.
So the funny
I'll
thing
definitely
is
agree with that.
Like, I think the big reason people are excited support junglers are coming back is because carry and, like, fighter-type jungles have just been popular for a really long time now.
Sure.
And it's just sort of like people want more...
breath of fresh air.
Yeah, people want more like
diversity.
Heavy utility supports are what's really popular right now. Before that, it was tanky, and people are probably going to want the healing supports to make a comeback and everything, and they'll want attention that way. It's just keeping the game fresh.
But
it's cool that the game can evolve
to tanks back to hyper carries. And I mean, it's only like 2 or 3 and mages were up there, and now it's you're right, it's evolving. They're doing circles. We're always going to be doing circles.
We're back to utility and kind of burst damage or ranged burst mid laners as opposed to the assassins that had been so popular for a stretch there.
Right. And a lot of that, and it's funny, a lot of these lanes and changes also are affected by masteries, like we've said in the past, and summoner spells. Because mid right now, having heal being so popular, there's no reason to take ignite, so you're either going to take heal or exhaust. And exhaust being so powerful shuts down the assassin, so no one wants to play an assassin because they know they can get exhausted. So the mind games of playing what you can pick. There are more changes here too. The Nautilus had a change with his passive. His staggering blow can now trigger every 8 seconds at level 6, once every 7 at level 11, once every 6 at 16. I don't think that's going to fix any of his jungling issues. I think he still jungles too slowly, even maxing W early. And he can't gank really until 6 because of the way his Q functions. Like, he can, obviously. He's done it in the past, but it's still very hard depending on what lane you're going to gank. So I don't feel like Nautilus is going to make a comeback with just those changes.
Exact changes.
They're also planning on some itemization changes to address tanky junglers. So they didn't specify. They just said a lot of the shift to bring them up to par with the stronger, more powerful champions is in itemization. So,
and they also said part of their design focus. Part of their design focus was they were gonna try and attack the kits of champions. They didn't think the items would help as much, just because they want other champions to be relevant, and the champions that they think the items will help a lot, the items are going to be catered to them. So,
well, let's talk about Zach then. Unstable Matter on the PvE has been changed. Unstable Matter cooldown increased to 5 at all ranks from 4. And it now includes when Zac reabsorbs a piece of himself, Unstable Matter's cooldown is reduced by 1 second. That's a jungle change if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
That's not even a top lane change. That's a clear more quickly by having W. But that also makes you want to put points in W over Q and E, and you're going to want E out of the jungle.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, this, on paper, this looks like kind of a cool thing until you realize I want points in E so I can gank people from forever away.
Right, so I can jump from the Wraith Pit into mid lane and hit somebody.
Right.
This will speed up his clear a little bit.
Well, you're not going to put any points in W. That's the problem. Yeah, you're right. Like, it does because you pick up a piece and you can W a little more quickly and pick it up. But
you're not going to need to put more than... Well,
but
yeah.
but if you
it's
think
more
about
effective the more points you have in it. So
yeah, but so if you think about it, it's not like the cooldown changes if you're picking up the pieces. Like you use W, you pick up the piece. Cooldown's the same as it always was. So this doesn't actually affect his clear unless you are focusing on trying to max
the cooldown by 1 second. You pick it up, it's at 3, it goes to 2. As soon as
Well,
you pick up the
yeah,
piece.
that's the thing.
But they nerfed it to 5 seconds.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
but if you pump like
if you're
your
using
3
your other
abilities
ability,
out right away, you get to get 2
another
W's
W.
off.
you get an extra W
but
off.
you don't need to prioritize W off in that regard for the jungle clear. You can still focus on E.
Right. No, the base damage, though, is only 40 plus... Well, I guess, okay, it's 40 plus 4% health as magic damage, which isn't a lot when it comes to jungle minions. That's probably 50 damage, so you're doing an extra... You could potentially do an extra 100 damage or so.
I guess I didn't realize you weren't putting another point or 2 into unstable matter in the first place.
You
so
put
that
him
it's
in Q
jungle
for
clear.
a longer slow. And you put him in E. If you're jungling him, you put him in E first, so you can get that longer range jump. And you put
That's
him in
fine.
Q
I
for
mean,
the longer slow. That's
all that makes sense and everything. It's just sort of this doesn't really change any of that because the damage is still the same, and there's just now some interesting counterplay. I don't know. I don't
see this as a big deal either.
I'm not entirely sure what the point is behind this change. I think they're just trying to make him more interesting.
Yeah,
just helps him clear faster. A little bit.
Slightly.
I mean, he might get a few more, like in team fights, if he's very mindful of his positioning and his blob's positioning, he might get a few more uses of unstable matter. But
it's not that big a deal. It's only 4% of
he could also
maximum health.
Well,
he could just as easily lose a lot of damage in fights because of this change.
And
because
lose a lot of life because of what you're using.
They
people
may
are not
also
mindful.
They may also be wanting to change up kind of his play style too, from poke a little bit, pick up what blobs you can when you can. This might be one of those things where like you drop 3 blobs, they're close to the person. Oh, you're gonna race to try and pick them up so you can, because if you can, you just got an 8% damage trade at level 5.
Didn't you have a problem when he first came out? I remember you writing his champion select that it was hard to pick up his blobs while he was jungling.
It's not that it was hard, it's that it's this mini game that you have to play while you're in the jungle that no other jungler has to deal with. So while a lot of junglers will like start a camp and then they will check around on the map, Zach can't do that quite as frequently because he has to be mindful of all these blobs because otherwise he's losing health.
Right.
And that is that was still the case. They changed it and then nerfed it later on about, the range at which the blobs flew.
Right.
But that was always my issue, and now more than ever, I guess you do have to be mindful of it. I can't help but wonder if this change is preempting some of the changes they have intended for Spirit of the Ancient Golem.
Something has to be coming out for these.
I gotta wonder if they're worried about Zach for that, and if they're worried about him, they gotta be worried about Amumu.
Right.
It seems kind of weird that they would be worried about Zach.
Even.
Yeah.
Right.
We have these other champions who are doing the same thing Zach does, and
bring back Cho'Gath.
Cho'Gath never really that good. I think people just played him because he was a surprise. He could secure objectives more easily.
Well, he's also stupidly safe out of the jungle with his E and everything. It's ridiculous.
So is Master Yi. Have you played Master Yi recently out of the jungle?
Oh, no.
You don't even have to take a potion to start. You just take Machete.
I was about to say, if you can jungle him, anybody can jungle him.
I can play Master Yi jungle in ranked and do well. My Master Yi is ridiculous.
Okay, he says that, and that seems like it might add him the greatest Master Yi jungler ever, but he can't jungle anyone else.
Nope.
Period.
Sure the hell
can't. He has
can't.
no idea what he's doing.
No fucking clue. I can play a farm jungler that isn't at the gank. I can play Xin Zhao, actually. I can play Xin Zhao jungle really well.
To the Z.
Try going like this. Go from Yi or Xin Zhao and then go to Warwick and just see how slow it is in the
I
beginning.
can do Warwick too. I'm just bored. I just turn on music and I just sit there and do. All right, we're drinking my beer. Hold on.
Oh,
hey, the
camp
camp
is done. All right, on to the next one.
So, Adam.
Hi,
Adam.
Dom.
Adam.
Hi, Dom.
You
Can I
had
use
some
some of this?
strong. You had some strong opinions on Essence Reaver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
So, Essence Reaver, not a good item. I'm going to put that out there. Actually, it's only good on Jace. We had talked about it being good on like Kha'Zix and Ezreal and Corki and da-da-da. Not good on anybody but Jace. And here's the reason why. Because when you're building it in lane, and I'm going to give Dom some credit for this because Dom, you kind of opened my eyes to what my actual thought was when we were talking about it, is that we talked about Jinx. Someone wrote in and said, I tried it on Jinx, not good on Jinx. Because at a point, all you're doing is gaining mana back. Yes, you can cast Q on Jinx all the time and keep up her fish bones, but you're not doing any damage. That's the same thing with everybody else who's building Essence Reaver.
Well, what it is what it does is it just allows you to reach a point of equilibrium on your mana where you're not like really you're not spending a lot of extra mana, but you're so you're going to deal that AoE damage, but your AoE doesn't hurt. So what's the fucking point?
Right. So when you're looking at, if you look at how much damage it gives, can someone pull up Essence Reaver really quick?
Yeah, 50 attack damage.
Okay.
10% lifesteal, 10% CDR.
God, all over that shit.
Like, we like the fact that it gave CDR and gave 50 attack damage and lifesteal, but when you look at how much gold, give me the gold value.
2650 total.
And iEdge is 2875 or something. Or
No,
3200. It's like 3200,
I was
right?
gonna say, that thing's that cheap now.
No. Sorry, it's like 3200. I was thinking of like upgrade costs because upgrade after 2 items is 2180 or something. Anyway, no, after 1 item it's like 2100. But still, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at how much that costs,
No, it's
compared to an
3800.
Yeah.
iEdge is 3800.
But when you look at like the points in the game when you would pick up these items, like you go back, you get a pickaxe, you go back, you get a Vamp Scepter. Well, by the time you've gotten those 2 items, another person in the lane has received a BF Sword. Now they're up big damage on you. And you can't trade with somebody even if you have lifesteal that early in the game. Even if you have, 8% lifesteal, you can't trade with them that early because they're doing more damage than their abilities because it's all about burst.
I was going to say, even if you're spamming abilities, they're still doing more damage.
Right. And now you've gone back. You both have a pickaxe, but they still have a BF Sword up on you. Now you've gone back, and suddenly they have an iEdge, and you have an Essence Reaver. Congratulations, you gained all your mana back after a rotation of spells, but you're dead.
And one crit changed everything.
Right.
I can't help but wonder if that's just indicative of the problem of Infinity Edge as an item being problematic and not necessarily Essence Reaver being bad. I'm if you wanted to argue that any of the BF Sword items are better, that I will totally concede. But, right away when these changes happen, there were a lot of pros that are like, I'm terrified for the moment somebody else gets an Infinity Edge before me because then I lose my lane automatically. The second I get a critical or I get hit by a crit, I'm screwed.
Yeah, it is. It's how it is right now. Because the build path, honestly, what I think are the best champions to play right now are Kog'Maw, Tristana, and what did I say? Kog'Maw, Tristana, and Corki was, I think, the third one I said. But Corki not building an Essence Reaver. Because Tristana with iEdge, super dumb. Oh, Jinx. Sorry, it was Tristana, Kog'Maw, and Jinx. Those are the 3 that are super powerful right now, in my opinion. Because they all work really well with iEdge. They all have attack speed increases in their kits. So you don't need to get that zeal right away. That allows you to rush that iEdge and do that extra damage.
Not to mention they all get that attack speed and they all have really long range.
Right. And
compared
the big thing is the range and the
agencies.
attack speed.
I mean, in theory, you should be including Sivir in this argument, but she doesn't have the range.
Right.
Correct.
Well, Sivir, my brother plays AD carry as his main role, and he's been playing. He's a gold level player. He's been playing Sivir, and he's been dabbling with Essence Reaver, and he says for the early game, it really is a difference maker. He's been winning his lane more by building Essence Reaver. He said the damage difference, you're 15 damage down when your opponent gets the BF Sword if you have your components for Essence Reaver, and then you even it out. But then if they build to the BT, it depends. He can just keep throwing out his stuff. And it's like a caster AD carry. So he said he likes it so far. I haven't played with it myself. I don't really like AD carry roles, so I don't know. But he likes it on Sivir. That's the only champ he likes it on so far.
I have basically been out of town since our last podcast, so I haven't had a chance to really toy around with the item or speak to players that have been playing. I haven't had a chance to talk to him.
See, I played with Essence Reaver 3 times now. Even Sean has played with it once with me.
I played with it on
You
Corki.
lose a lot of you lose a lot of that like early mid game power by going Essence Reaver.
Which is funny because it seems like they intended it to be a strong mid-game item.
It's supposed to be. You have to rush it because any champion, your mana issues are going to dwindle the later the game goes on. So you're going to want to sell it for a big ticket item later on.
Here's the problem with the way people are buying it and trying to build blue builds, but you're better off buying a tier and letting that stack because tier kind of takes care of those mana issues after some stacks, right? One time back. So, like, the blue Ezreal build that I've seen has been tier, Essence Reaver, Iceborne Gauntlet. I played it. It works great when you get all 3 of those items, but yeah, suck up until that point because you don't do any damage.
I also gotta wonder what the point is. You are, like, overcompensating your mana issues and everything.
You can keep your mana on the entire time and do tons of extra damage with your Q.
You say tons of extra damage, but by the point that's happening, their AD carry is up 10-2.
It's not, but it's tons of extra. It's not actually extra damage. You just think you're dealing extra damage.
Right.
It's not like you have a serious mana pool to support it.
Here's another thing to consider. If you're rushing, let's say you're rushing the Cutlass build instead. As opposed to the one rushing the Essence Reaver. Now the Essence Reaver has more flat damage in their kit. 50 damage isn't anything to sneeze at. It's a BF Sword's damage, pretty much. It's base damage on this item that does all these other neat things with lifesteal. So you have your Vamp Scepter, you finish it, you got your BF Sword built into this one item, and then you can build traditionally after that.
My problem with that build is the fact that
you got to get there.
You have to get there.
And you got to rush
built that Essence Reaver, but you have to be ahead of that person to make that Essence Reaver worth it. Because if you're ever even at that point, you're not going to do the same amount of damage with the Essence Reaver. Yes, you've saved all that mana, yes, you have 10% cooldown reduction, but you're not going to get 2 rotations of your spells out of these people that could use it in a team fight.
Out of curiosity, if it built out of like a brutalizer and a pickaxe, and probably cost a little bit more gold, but whatever, and instead of lifesteal,
it can't cost any more gold. Like
but I mean, fine. We're spitballing here and everything, and I don't know how price would have to be accounted for. But instead of having the lifesteal, it had armor pen, even just the 10 flat armor pen, but then still had the CDR. Had 50 damage on it, and then had that mana passive and everything. Do you think it becomes a more interesting item because it transitions way better into that mid-game
more damage?
stage?
I would say it would be way more interesting in the fact that offer a secondary build path out of the brutalizer instead of going into Yomu's or something like that.
Well, he's right. It allows you to do comparable damage. It doesn't allow you to do that crit damage, but if you will get Essence Reaver before they finish their eye-edge. So now at that point, you will do comparable damage to the other person who doesn't have eye-edge yet, because you're reducing 10 or 15% of their armor.
So it's almost a case where Riot was so worried about the sustain game that we had been seeing that they just thought it needed to have lifesteal in order to be a purchase-worthy item. Like that's almost actually where the issue is, because lifesteal's kind of wasted in that regard, because if everybody's going Infinity Edge, then lifesteal is a much later considered stat.
Right.
And even if they if the idea is that one person eventually gets the first eye edge, what good is lifesteal?
Well, and here's the other thing.
I think because they were hitting the runes. They hit the runes for lifesteal. You need some kind of lifesteal early on as a AD carry to maintain your lane early. So maybe they were just leaving that in there to address that with the rune hit.
Well, maybe, like, I could even see some people even taking some lifesteal runes, even though they're not maybe as cost efficient if they are going that early IE anyway, just because between that and Doran's.
Sorry, I didn't mean
You're fine. You're fine.
Over you. Is there really any reason to, though? Because I seem the build right now is 2 Dorans into a big item because you get 6% lifesteal at that point. So is there any reason that build that extra lifesteal and runes?
That's actually like kind of piggybacks on what I was going to say. At least they would now stack with the Dorans instead of being that Dorans being the weird case.
Right.
So
true.
We could see a return to that. But I agree with you. You could just get double Dorans, and hey, now you have more damage and the same amount of lifesteal you would have had.
Yeah.
There's really no problem with the Rain Man build at this point with 4 Dorans anymore. I hated it before, but now that you're getting percentage of lifesteal, it scales so much better into the mid game, so you can keep on it. But people we thought Lucian with a static Lucian with a Essence Reaver, not as good as you would think because he needs that extra damage like that BT, and BT now pretty much sucks Like that BT is an item that you buy 5th or 6th item if you're ahead.
But that's what I said was going to be the case.
Right.
Like, I never thought this was going to be an item you immediately go out and buy, and people argued with me about it. I'm like, it's not good until you have a lot of damage to support the lifesteal.
Correct.
You lost way too much damage on that item.
It's
to
a
make it an early
defensive late
purchase.
game item.
Yeah.
You can even get it offensively if they keep, if your team's winning. But
I've played against fed people who had BT, and it's really annoying for them to have an extra 200 damage shield, but they were fed.
Right.
So now they're doing tons of damage anyway.
Right, and it's not like you're boosting the stats on it by farming quietly and sneaking your CS.
Right.
It's icing on your build. It is not the foundation of it anymore.
Right.
So I don't like BT. I don't think people should build BT, and I think people need to stop building Essence Reaver out of the bottom lane I think you should build Essence Reaver if you are ahead by a kill and you can get it early, and you go to lane and don't feed that kill. That's probably the big caveat here. Don't go to lane after you've gotten a kill and then fed it again. But
I mean, the other thing I have to wonder about Essence Reaver is how much it's being impacted by the advent of utility supports, like or the big return. Nami's seeing so much more play than she was used to, and there are so many other defensive stats available that do they really need the lifesteal anymore?
yeah, do we? I don't think if you're gonna yes out of Doran's. That's another big thing though. Like Doran's with the lifesteal,
yeah,
and Feast and Butcher.
I mean, but that's enough. You
Right.
don't need the Bloodthirster type thing anymore. So, I mean, it's kind of like this stuff has inadvertently changed
But
support
no one
play.
really built that. No one built Bloodthirster for the lifesteal. That was just icing on the cake. Like it was great to have it, but you got all that. You got 70 AD out of it at the time.
But if you had to go back early, at least you could buy the Vamp Scepter and know that was going to help you stick around for a while longer.
Sure.
But I mean, I guess now you can just buy a Doran's Blade or two, and hey, same.
Right, buy 2
solution.
Doran's Blade, then go and die edge. It just feels like it takes longer. I think these changes address people's concerns that ADs can't carry, but that's because it pigeonholes them into a build that can carry.
Yeah, we're back to like the Season 2 build where it was IE, ED, GG.
Right. Excuse me.
LW.
yeah, exactly. IEPD, LW. We're way back to the Season 2 build now.
I think it's funny that
Nostalgia.
Bloodthirster and IE basically just swap spots.
I mean, but that's always going to be the case, like
Right.
because those are the 2 big items for that class.
Right.
Right. Well,
But I won't be surprised if they nerf some of that bonus critical strike damage, even some of the critical strike rate,
down
but
to like
definitely the damage.
225% instead of 250 or something like that.
Yeah.
Then people, you know how much the shitstorm that it's going to cause on Reddit if they reduce that by 25%.
Well, IEdge is such a big ticket item, and it feels good when you get it because you get that huge power spike. I don't know
But
if
I mean,
they want to nerf
but
that
it's
feeling, you know?
But it's also swinging lanes the way Phage used to, and that's why they had to nerf the hell out of Phage.
But it's a hell of a lot more expensive and harder to get than Phage.
Yeah, but it's
3,800
still
gold is a lot of gold to pick up.
it's still doing the
Compared
same
to
thing
Phage.
that it's still doing the same thing Phage always used to do, just at a later point.
Sure.
Right.
Well, people
If you can get to the
why I
later
think
point.
that's why I think they'll change it.
people bitched and they wanted their AD carries. Now you're going to get them after 20 minutes.
I don't know. I can see it staying where it's at right now for a while. They're going to be addressing other things first.
I can't tell you how to fix it. I can just tell you how it impacts the game now.
Well, and here's the other thing with the return of utility junglers. A lot of utility junglers have a lot of lockdowns, so I wouldn't be surprised to see people like it staying in the same spot. If a jungler can get to somebody and then lock down the AD carry until they die, what's it matter anyway?
And supports
You still
are
got the
helping
big
that just as
bullseye on your
much.
chest if you're playing a marksman. So.
Right,
Sure.
right.
I mean, your
Sometimes it's
carries-
nice
your-
to get that lucky crit.
For the most part, your
Get off
carries
your
right
face.
now are just out of top lane and the marksman.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else,
right.
everybody else is utility.
To support the carries, yep.
Just keep those 2 carries alive and hitting things.
Well, why don't we wrap up this discussion? Eat some granola. So, guys, don't forget to go check out bit.ly/Tforce granola.
Good stuff.
You got to touch on Battle Arena real quick.
I was going to. That's why
Yeah.
I was
Oh, okay.
moving into this. I'm gonna eat some
Made a new
granola.
page for him.
Sounded like a wrap up. Sorry.
Yeah, if you guys go to
Amoon
trinityforcepodcast.com,
does a wrap up.
there is a page along the top. There's a bar now on the top that you can click on. I made a page that allows you to see all the stream times and the Battle Arena times. So when people ask me, I can go to trinityforcepodcast.com and find it. But you guys have been wondering, I made a mistake last week about EU Battle Arena, okay? EU West Battle Arena is at 7 p.m. CEST on Tuesdays. Not Thursdays. I said Thursdays. It's Tuesdays, okay? So it'll be tomorrow. Sorry if you get this podcast on Wednesdays. It was yesterday. But if you're listening live, it's tomorrow. And if you're watching on YouTube on Tuesdays, it's tonight. So figure it out. In-game chat channel T-Force. Every single region has an in-game chat channel T-Force. We hit 200 people the other night.
I saw that.
We actually tapped out.
Yep.
So Oceanic Battle Arena is this Thursday at 7 p.m. AWST. Join the in-game chat channel T-Force. Bronze Boot Camp. We've had 3 or 4 emails this last weekend from people who played. We had 10, or I think we had 15 total people that played. 3 people have wrote us and said, this is fantastic. I love it. I love the information that Badger and Haberdashing are giving. So everybody give a hand to Haberdashing and Badger, both those guys into the T-Force family now, and are helping out doing Bronze Battle Arena. So if you guys want to know what that is, it's a casted 5v5 game on the weekends from noon until 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Join in-game chat channel T-Force to play. It'll teach you how to get better at this game and what mistakes that you've made and how to correct those mistakes. No one's going to be yelling at you. No one's going to be pissy. No one's going to be anything. It is very helpful information. And it's not like me yelling at Chira on a normal night about how he fucked up.
And it's simple. Just join that in-game chat channel T-Force. Lower right-hand corner, you click on the little chat bubbles. You click the plus sign chat bubble, type in T-Force, and bam, you're in.
I'm telling you guys, granola. Go, Gather's granola.
Go get it. It's delicious. You won't regret it.
Which one are you eating?
Promise.
Are you eating the Udir right now?
I'm eating a turtle.
Yeah, you're eating the scared Craven Udir right there.
I'm almost out of turtle, which is really sad because that's my favorite one.
That's what Udir leaves when he's running away from you and trying to survive. Turtle tracks.
All right, guys. Everybody say thanks to Badger. He is the head of the Badger.
Thank you, Haberdasher.
Haberdashing too. Luke, he's a listener. He's joining us for EU West Battle Arena. And then, of course, Lee from the Ozavalo podcast, the More Fingers. Okay. That is it, guys. That is episode 172 of the Trinity Force podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please go check out Battle Arena. Check out the webpage. Check out everything, YouTube. We will see you guys Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
See ya.
Bye, lady.
Granola.